All right. Again, welcome. My name is Sarah Lewis. I use she and her pronouns, and I'm the Program Director, Performing Arts and Accessibility Coordinator at MidAtlantic Arts. I use she and her pronouns, and I'm a white woman with very short brown hair and a brown sweater. I'm zooming in today from my home located on lands known as Baltimore, Maryland. I want to acknowledge the legacy of the Piscataway and the Susquehannock peoples and the enduring presence of Piscataway, Lumbee, and the Eastern Band of Cherokee community members in Baltimore City today. I'm happy to welcome you to today's webinar on the ArtsCONNECT program. I'm here with my colleague, Sarah Tuné, who is the program specialist at MidAtlantic Arts. Today, we're going to share what this program is, who is eligible, how to apply, and how adjudication works. I have about 40 minutes of content to go over with you. First, we'll go through this slide deck. Then we'll take a look at the ArtsCONNECT application through the MidAtlantic Arts online portal. We'll have time for questions at the end of this presentation. This webinar is meant to serve as an overview and a resource. Before applying, make sure to review the ArtsCONNECT guidelines at midatlanticarts.org. You can reach out to me with questions about these guidelines at any time. My email is slewis@midatlanticarts.org, and I'll share it a few times throughout this presentation. For today's webinar, if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. We have ASL interpretation for today's webinar. Laura is here with us today. Thank you. To pin the ASL interpreter throughout the webinar, select the three dots in the top right of the video and select Pin. Automatic closed captioning is also available for this webinar. For those viewing the webinar live, to view automatic captions, click CC or Live Transcript button, and then click Show Subtitles. Throughout your ArtsCONNECT application process, if you are in need of accommodation, please contact me, Sarah Lewis, at 410-539-6656, extension 110, or email slewis@midatlanticarts.org. Now, before we dig into ArtsCONNECT, I want to share a little bit of context about MidAtlantic Arts. MidAtlantic Arts supports artists, presenters, and organizations through unique programming, grant support, partnerships, and information sharing. Created in 1979, MidAtlantic Arts is aligned with the region's state arts councils and the National Endowment for the Arts. MidAtlantic Arts is one of 6 regional arts organizations. We combine state and federal funding with private support from corporations, foundations, and individuals to nurture diverse artistic expression while connecting people to meaningful arts experiences within our region and beyond. You can learn more about MidAtlantic Arts and our work at midatlanticarts.org and about all of the regional arts organizations, or RAOs, at the RAO website using the URL usregionalarts.org, and both of those links are going to go in the chat. All right, now let's talk about ArtsCONNECT. ArtsCONNECT is a presenter-led and a consortium-based grant opportunity. It's funded through the NEA's Regional Touring Program, which provides funding to the regional arts organizations like MidAtlantic Arts to support touring across each respective RAO's state and region. It's intended to support artist tours through the Mid-Atlantic region and to support presenters' engagement of artists and companies. So here are some deadlines and important dates for ArtsCONNECT. The last day to submit to the required projects and development listing is Thursday, February 16th of 2023. The final application deadline is Thursday, March 2nd, 2023. And the project period for ArtsCONNECT supported engagements is July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. So any project that you're proposing for this application must take place during that window. I do want to acknowledge the timeline shift for this program. The most recent ArtsCONNECT cycle, the one we just had last year for FY23, was released much later in the calendar year due to the vacancy in my position, as well as ongoing delays caused by COVID-19. This year, I'm working to pull the program timeline earlier in the calendar year and in the booking cycle in order to make sure that presenters can apply and hear back about funding sooner. I really welcome your feedback about the timeline and the evolving timeline anytime about ArtsCONNECT. Please reach out via email or give me a call to chat about it if you'd like. So in this section, we're going to talk about ArtsCONNECT eligibility, how to determine whether an individual presenter is eligible to participate in a cohort, whether a cohort is eligible, whether an artist or company is eligible to be proposed for support through ArtsCONNECT, and whether the proposed activities between an artist and a presenter are eligible. First, presenter eligibility. ArtsCONNECT is a presenter-driven opportunity, which means that presenters must work together to engage each other and the artist or company they want to present. To be eligible for ArtsCONNECT, each presenter needs to meet each of these criteria. They should be based in one of the states or jurisdictions of MidAtlantic Arts, which are listed here on the screen and include Delaware, DC, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Puerto Rico, the US Virgin Islands, Virginia or West Virginia. The presenter also needs to be designated by the IRS as a 501c3 nonprofit organization or be a unit of state or local government. They need to demonstrate organizational administrative capacity to complete all the required project components. And they need to be in good standing with MidAtlantic Arts at the time of application. So how are we defining presenter? For this program, MidAtlantic Arts defines presenter as an organization that financially compensates an artist or company that is a separate entity from the presenter for performances and engagement activities that take place in the presenter's community. So producing organizations that really solely create artistic work or assemble artists to perform as an ensemble, that type of organization is not eligible to apply for ArtsCONNECT. So what about presenting history? Presenters do not need to have a history of engaging professional touring artists as an ongoing or significant part of their organization's activity to present an artist with support from ArtsCONNECT. That being said, organizations that don't have a history of presenting touring artists will be asked to describe their administrative plan for engaging the artist within their existing staffing structure and among other organizational priorities. So in terms of number of applications that a presenter is eligible to apply for, a presenter can apply for a maximum of 2 ArtsCONNECT applications, with each of those applications including a minimum of 2 presenters from 2 states or jurisdictions in the region. However, if an applicant is applying for ArtsCONNECT with at least 1 cohort that includes 3 or more presenters, that presenter is eligible to apply for up to 3 ArtsCONNECT cohorts. I'm happy to talk through your scenario if you have any questions about the required presenting partners or the maximum number of applications that you can submit in this round. Consortium requirements for ArtsCONNECT are consistent with the most recent round. For the 23-24 cycle, there is a minimum of 2 presenting partners from a minimum of 2 states or jurisdictions in the region. In previous ArtsCONNECT cycles, before the most recent cycle, 3 presenters were required, and we hope that the continued reduction of required presenting partners allows for increased access to this program. 1 presenter of the consortium must be designated the lead presenter, And it's worth noting that the lead presenter does not serve as a fiscal conduit. They are just responsible for submitting some additional narrative application materials, as well as putting together the work samples. And we'll look at all that in the application in just a minute. Next, I want to share a recommended number of presenting partners in terms of maximum. MidAtlantic Arts recommends that presenting consortiums keep their maximum number of presenting partners to 6 or fewer. This is not a hard and fast guideline. If you're working on an incredible project with 7 presenters and you all feel great about it, then you're welcome to apply. But we've found that in general, when adjudicating applications, projects with 6 presenters or fewer fare more strongly than than cohorts that go beyond that number. And I'll talk a little bit more about this when I discuss the the adjudication process later in this presentation. So let's talk about what artists can be engaged through an ArtsCONNECT consortium. Again, this is a presenter-led application, so artists are not eligible to apply directly. But as a presenter consortium is thinking about which artist or company they will apply for support to present, they should keep the following in mind. The artist can be based anywhere in the US or around the world. ArtsCONNECT is not a roster program. The same artist must be proposed for the entire consortium, but it doesn't need to be the same work by that artist at each presenting location, and it does not need to be a contiguous tour. The only artists who are not eligible for ArtsCONNECT support are those on the 2023-2024 MidAtlantic Tours or Performing Arts Global Exchange rosters. You can find the MidAtlantic Tours roster in the link that's going in the chat now, and the Performing Arts Global Exchange roster will be coming out in early winter of 2023. And although you can't double dip your support for artists on the roster with ArtsCONNECT, I do encourage you to check out the roster and see if you're interested in presenting any of these artists in your upcoming season. So what is required in terms of programming for each proposal? Here is what we ask for in order for you to be eligible for ArtsCONNECT support. Each presenter in the consortium must meet these requirements: that the proposed engagement needs to include at least 1 performance open to the general public, and it also must include at least 1 community engagement activity. There are lots and lots of ways to define community engagement activities, and we'll ask you to do just that in the narrative portion of your application. Both the performance and the community engagement activity can be in person or virtual. Your proposed engagements should meet the following requirements. They should take place between July 1st, 2023 and June 30th, 2024. They should not be a fundraising event, although I do want to stress that you can make a profit on the event. It's just that the sole purpose of the event shouldn't be around fundraising, like a gala, for example. Performances primarily serving non-public audiences are not eligible for the public performance component, but they could serve as a community engagement component, like, for example, a performance that is taking place inside of a school. Now let's talk about grant amounts and eligible requests. A fee subsidy amount of up to 50% of the negotiated artist fee, or up to $10,000 is one portion of the fee request. You can that negotiated fee must be listed in the countersigned agreement with the artist. And then you can also apply for up to $2,000 of other eligible project expenses. All grants awarded from MidAtlantic Arts must be matched on a 1-to-1 basis with non-federal funds, so that if you were awarded $5,000 from MidAtlantic Arts, you would need to match that funding with another $5,000 for a total project budget of $10,000. That match could come from ticket sales, individual donations, other foundation fundraising, or other non-federal funding sources. We'll talk about the budget more when we look at the application in just a moment. So now that we've talked about what makes an ArtsCONNECT proposal eligible, we're going to talk about the application process for ArtsCONNECT. An important part of the application process for ArtsCONNECT is the projects and development listing. All cohorts submitting an application for ArtsCONNECT must post the artist or company that they plan to engage on the projects in development listing page. The reason for the projects in development process is that it gives potential applicants who may not know who they want to engage through ArtsCONNECT the opportunity to reach out to projects already in development so that they might connect and join a presenting consortium. The projects in development listing is required for each application cohort. Submissions are due February 16th of 2023, and presenters are encouraged to submit early as possible. Some other things to keep in mind, anyone in the cohort can submit. It does not have to come from the lead presenter. Also, there is no penalty for submitting projects to the listing that do not turn into full ArtsCONNECT proposals. The projects in development listing is not evaluated by the panelists. The project in development listing is updated every week throughout the submission deadline. So you can check back on Mondays through February 16th to see what new projects have been added if you're looking to join an ArtsCONNECT cohort. You can access the submission form and the listing itself through MidAtlanticArts.org. And I'm going to stop my screen share here and take us over to the MidAtlantic Arts page so that you can see what that looks like. All right, here we are at MidAtlanticArts.org under the ArtsCONNECT information page. If we click on the Projects and Development tab right here, it takes us to this page. And then what we're looking for first is the ArtsCONNECT Projects and Development listing. So here we go. The submission page is a Microsoft form. The only required portions of this form are the artist's name, location, genre, web presence, and estimated fee range. Then we ask for your organization's name, location, and your email. Everything else is optional to give potential applicant partners more information about you and the consortium you're developing. Hopefully this takes just a few minutes to fill out. And again, remember, only one member of the consortium needs to submit. Now let's go on back to the MidAtlantic Arts page and look at the final listing. The listing will be updated each Monday, as I mentioned, between now and the submission deadline. So you can check back to see what projects are coming to fruition. You can use this table of contents listing to click, and it'll take you directly to a project that you might be interested in. The projects are organized by genre in the table of contents. Again, you can access both the submission page and the listing at midatlanticarts.org. And for those watching live, we'll make sure that there's a link to that in the chat. And actually, I am seeing that we do have a problem with our chat right now, so I am going to go ahead and post that for us. And while I'm doing that, something I want to mention is that 1 week from today, MidAtlantic Arts is hosting an optional ArtsCONNECT presenter pitch session for presenters interested in sharing information about a project that they're working on. I encourage you to sign up if you have an artist in mind, but you're still looking for presenting partners, or if you'd like to apply for an ArtsCONNECT grant or a few, but you would like to know what other people are also working on. Unlike the projects and development listing, the pitch session is not required. It's just an optional additional resource for folks looking to connect with other presenters in the region around ArtsCONNECT. The presenter pitch session is part of the Mid-Atlantic Performing Arts Presenter Exchange, and we'll put more information about that here in the chat now. So from here, I'm going to move us into looking at the application portal itself. Okay, Mid-Atlantic Arts has recently switched our online grant portal from eGrants to Smart Simple. If you applied in the most recent cycle, your application process will be very similar and you do not need to make a new account in Smart Simple. But if you've applied for ArtsCONNECT or any of our other programs in years past, you will need to make a new account in Smart Simple, if you haven't done so already, and the process will look a little different than it has in the past. I'm going to log us in now using my test account so that you can see what the application portal looks like. And here we go. When you're in the portal, you will start your application by looking at funding opportunities under available applications. You'll see here that we have 2 funding opportunities available. When you're ready to apply for ArtsCONNECT, you'll click the purple Apply Now button under the ArtsCONNECT page. I've already started an application, so instead of starting a new application, I'm going to return to the home screen here and go to My Application and select In Process. You'll see that I have 2 applications in process here. I'll select ArtsCONNECT. And now we are inside of the application. This is what it will look like when you apply. First, we have the organization tab. This tab is auto-populated with information that you will enter into the portal when you create your application. If you are reviewing this and need to update anything in your organizational profile, you can do that by clicking this Update Organization Profile button. Under Project, you'll share basic information about the project you're proposing. This is the tab where you'll let us know whether you're the lead presenter or not. You'll see when I toggle No, the lead presenter tabs disappear. When I click Yes, they show back up again. We're going to go through the application today as if we were applying as a lead presenter, but if you're not a lead presenter, then you won't have to fill out those tabs. Another important note on this page is that each applicant must have a countersigned letter of agreement with the proposed artist or company. I do encourage you to hit Save Draft as you move through the application, which is at the bottom in purple. This is a good way to make sure that your work gets saved as you go. Next, we are looking at the Presenting Partners tab in the Lead Presenter section. Again, this will only show up if you are a lead presenter for ArtsCONNECT. This first page asks for a question about the presenting partners and other general information about the cohort and the artist, as well as 2 narrative questions about the company that's being proposed. The second lead presenter tab is for work samples. Only the lead presenter in each consortium needs to submit the work samples. They'll be reviewed by the full consortium for the artistry section. They can be submitted as any type of URL link, and they can be password protected. Just make sure that if you're using a password protected link, that you include that password in the submission here. The work samples can be from any time period, acknowledging that a recent work sample may still be challenging to produce due to the pandemic. Video of the proposed work is encouraged, but if no video of that work exists, you can provide alternate work samples that display the type of artistry that the company would tour. Panelists will review 2 minutes of each work sample, so please include a 2-minute timestamp for panelists to review if your sample is longer than 2 minutes. The narrative questions are next. These are questions that everyone applying for ArtsCONNECT, whether or not you're the lead presenter, will need to submit. The questions are also available at MidAtlanticArts.org in a Word document format, and I recommend that you do download that Word document or use another format and draft your questions in a separate document and then paste them into the Smart Simple portal when you're ready. You can save your work in the portal as we saw, but just in case your internet skips out while you're drafting the narrative, it's a good bet to have those saved in a separate document and then copy and paste when you're ready. If you've applied to ArtsCONNECT in the past, you'll see that there have been some updates to the narrative structure for ArtsCONNECT. Rather than 2 long paragraphs, we've broken the questions into shorter bites. The first question addresses the eligibility requirement that the presenter demonstrates organizational capacity to support the project. So if you have a 3 or more year presenting history of working with touring performing arts ensembles, you can click yes and move on. If you are an organization that doesn't have a 3 or more year presenting history, we'll ask for a little bit more context here on your organizational staffing plan to support the project. The rest of the narrative questions each tie into one of the assessment criteria, which we'll talk more about shortly when we discuss application review. I encourage you to review each criteria point as you work through these questions to inform how to structure your answers. First, we're going to ask for your organization's mission statement. Then a description of how the proposed project advances that mission. This will help reviewers determine the project's mission impact. Next, we ask, why do you want to work with this artist or company? What's exciting to you about their performance? This will help the reviewers assess the project's artistry along with the lead presenter's work sample submissions. After that, we'll ask for between 1 and 5 project goals. These goals, along with the community partners and project activities tabs that we'll look at in just a minute, will help reviewers assess the project's community impact. You do not have to fill out all 5 goals. We really want to know what you hope to do in your community through this project. So if that's 1 big goal, if it's 2 goals, if it's 5, that's fine. We really want to know what you hope to do in your community through this project. And it can be simple, like holding a performance, or really specific, like outlining how many folks you want to turn up to a specific event, or a specific partnership that you want to cultivate or start fresh, or anything else that you want to happen through this project. Again, this section helps the reviewers assess community impact, so please consider that when outlining your goals. The last narrative question asks about access for the proposed project and is how reviewers will assess your project's access. Please think broadly about access when you're answering this question. We want to know how you will create access for communities that have been systemically underserved by the arts. Barriers to participation might include, but are certainly not limited to, age, class, disability status, gender identity, geographic location, race, sexual orientation, or other factors. And we do encourage you to speak to multiple facets of identity here as you talk about access for your project. The next tab is there for you to let us know if you're working with any community partners for this project. These partners can be based in the arts or not. You aren't required to have any community partners, but if you are working with any individual or organization that is not directly affiliated with the applicant organization, you can list them here, and adjudicators will take that into consideration when assessing community impact. To add a community partner, click this Add Community Partners button. From there, you'll get a pop-up window, and you can enter the name, whether they are in the arts sector, a very short description of the partner, and whether that partnership is confirmed. When you hit the purple Save button on that pop-up window, you'll see the information populate on the community partner screen here. If you need to delete a partner that you've added, you can do that on that same Add Community Partners tab by hitting the X button next to the partner. The Project Activities tab is where you give us an overview of all the programmatic components of your proposal. Per the guidelines, make sure to include at least one public performance and at least one community engagement option here. Very similar to the Community Partners tab, you're going to click the Enter Project Activities. You'll get a pop-up window that will ask you for the name of the activity, the location of the activity date, projected attendance, whether there's a cost to attend, and whether the activity is confirmed. Again, you hit Save and see those activities populate on the screen. All right. Next, we are going to go and advance in our tab. You may have to click the right arrow button to see all of the tabs on your screen, depending on the size of your browser. We are going to go into the budget section now. Here you let us know what your budget is for this project. You might use a different template or budgeting method internally for your project, but we ask that you please adapt that budget to fit the categories that we've outlined here. So to review, you can apply for up to 50% of your negotiated artist fee, and that can be up to $10,000, plus eligible expenses up to $2,000. Here's where you enter your expenses for the project. Once you've done that, the form will auto-populate down here with the maximum subsidy request and other eligible expenses request, which will add up to your total grant request. Let's say, for example, that like I have here, we're applying for an ArtsCONNECT project with an artist fee of $6,000 that had all the eligible expenses I had put in expenses. Down here in income, you are going to add what you think you'll make at the box office, any other income that you received from other grant opportunities or from state or government opportunities, and also individual donations. Under that, the form is going to auto-populate to show what your maximum fee subsidy request amount is and other eligible expenses. Since my artist fee was $6,000, it shows that I can apply for up to $3,000 here. And since my other eligible expenses were well over $2,000, I can apply for the maximum $2,000 here. So if I applied with this budget and was successful, I would receive a grant from MidAtlantic Arts of $5,000 total. If, as I'm working on my application, I decide that I can actually raise the artist fee to $8,000, you could change that in your negotiated artist fee. This section would change to $4,000, and you would be eligible for, that additional funding. Do remember that in order for these auto-populated fields to populate, you need to hit Save Draft, which is a purple button at the bottom of the screen here. It may be covered by the auto captions if you're using them on your screen, but it is at the bottom of your Smart Simple page. When you hit Save as you're working on your budget, these auto populated amounts will show up after that. Do remember also, as you fill out your budget, that all funds from MidAtlantic Arts must be matched one-to-one, and that the match cannot come from federal government sources. Moving on from budget, we go to artist consent. This is where you let us know if you've had the opportunity to discuss the details of this application with the artist or company that you plan to present. We strongly encourage you to be in dialogue with the artist ahead of submitting your application. You can use the text box here to give us some context on what your conversation has been thus far. The next tab for our records will auto-populate with information that you fill out when you complete your profile on Smart Simple. Check it out to make sure that everything looks right. And if you need to update anything, you can do that by clicking the Update Organizational Profile button or Update Contact Profile. On this page, you'll also need to select the project discipline. And this discipline list comes from the National Standard for the Arts Information Exchange, which is used by the NEA. Finally, the certification page is where you confirm that you comply with all federal statutes and regulations as listed here. There are links to each of these in the application directly, and I encourage you to read through them if you'd like to learn more. Definitely reach out to me if you have any questions about them as you're going through. At the bottom of the page, you'll list your name, phone number, and email. And when you've gotten to this page, you can hit submit at the bottom of the screen. And from there, your application will be complete. If you do have anything that the application catches that you need to reassess, or maybe a field that you skipped that's required, you'll get a notification about that when you attempt to submit. And it'll prompt you and show you exactly where to continue filling out the application. But if you get that notification and you have any questions about why your application isn't ready to submit, again, reach out to me. All right, now that we've gone through the application itself, I'm going to bring us back to the slide deck for a little bit more information about the adjudication process. All right, so after submitting your application, staff will review it, that's me, for eligibility issues. You'll be contacted if we have any questions. Applications with support materials like the work samples are all sent over to panelists who will evaluate the application against the program criteria. The panelists make recommendations that are sent to the MidAtlantic Arts Board of Directors for final approval. And then applicants will be notified of their selection status via email by the end of May 2023. The review criteria for ArtsCONNECT include mission impact, artistry, community benefit, and access. The guidelines have more information on each of these criteria points, and as we talked about in the application, each narrative question is directly related to one of these criteria points, and all criteria have equal weight. All criteria will also be viewed through the lens of MidAtlantic Arts' mission, vision, and guiding principles, which are available at midatlanticarts.org. I encourage you to review those mission, vision, and guiding principles statements and consider how your application, including your narrative and the listed project activities, addresses each of these criteria points. ArtsCONNECT projects will be adjudicated in two tiers: projects with consortium average artist fees at or under $10,000, and those with consortium average artist fees above $10,000. By adjudicating in two groups, we create space for projects with smaller artist fees to be adjudicated next to projects with similar fees, and vice versa for projects with larger artist fees. This creates more equity in the grant disbursement overall, and in particular, making sure that ArtsCONNECT funds are available to projects with smaller artist fees. It's important to note that while each ArtsCONNECT application is initially adjudicated individually, we make funding decisions as a cohort. So each applicant's artistry adjudication is directly tied to the lead presenter's narrative and work sample submission, for example. I encourage you to collaborate on your ArtsCONNECT submissions as a cohort, since this is a competitive program, and a single applicant within a cohort whose application is not compellingly meeting criteria can bring down the adjudication of an otherwise strong cohort. This is also another reason why we encourage ArtsCONNECT cohorts of no more than 6 presenters, since it can be really challenging to collaborate in numbers greater than 6. If a presenter is applying for more than one ArtsCONNECT project, each application will be adjudicated separately in the tier applicable to the cohort's average fee. Regarding award notification, as I mentioned, applicants will be notified of the status of their proposals by the end of May in 2023. If awarded, 90% of the award will be made at the start of the grant period, as long as we've received the grantee's grant award agreement and we've received a submitted countersigned contract with the artist or company. Once again, here are the important dates for ArtsCONNECT this year. The last day to submit to the required projects and development listing is Thursday, February 16th, 2023. The final application deadline is Thursday, March 2nd, 2023. And the project period for ArtsCONNECT supported engagement is July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. And a few other dates and opportunities I'd like to highlight. Tomorrow, there's a webinar for the Special Presenter Initiatives Program, which is open to performing arts presenters based in DC, Delaware, Puerto Rico, the US Virgin Islands, and West Virginia. So if you're based in one of those states or jurisdictions, I encourage you to come out or look for the recording. Then later this week and early next week, MidAtlantic Arts is hosting the MidAtlantic Performing Arts Presenter Exchange. I already mentioned the optional ArtsCONNECT presenter pitch session, but I encourage you to check out the other 3 activities. I had put the link to that in the chat, and after we finish the slide deck, I'll make sure those links go in again. And last, I want to highlight a really exciting supplemental grant opportunity for presenters who are awarded ArtsCONNECT grants to present an artist or company who identifies as Indigenous. Western Arts Alliance's Advancing Indigenous Performances program provides additional support to successful ArtsCONNECT grantees when they present an artist who self-identifies as Indigenous. Ed Bourgeois with Western Arts Alliance will be at this Thursday's exchange event to speak more about the program. And you can reach out to me if you have any questions about this, and I can connect you with Ed. So we made it through the slide deck. You can review ArtsCONNECT guidelines, submit to and review the projects and development listing, and find the Smart Simple application portal, all at midatlanticarts.org under the ArtsCONNECT program tab. As you go through the process, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to talk with you about your project, answer any of your questions. That's why I'm here. So please email me at slewis@midatlanticarts.org. And at this point, I'm going to stop screen sharing, and I'm going to invite you to put any questions that you have for me in the Q&A. I see we've already got one, and I will review this one we have and get back to you. And please do continue to drop questions in the Q&A. I'll be here for, until 2 at least. So I'm going to take a minute to read this question. It says, my organization has hosted touring organizations in the past, including a NEFA-supported project in 2019, but it's usually one show every other season. Would this count as experience as a touring presenter, or would you prefer to hear more about the organization's history and capacity? I think that if you have, ongoing experience since 2019, that is all right. If you feel interested in sharing with us a little bit more context, I would welcome that, just for the opportunity to get to know you and your work a little bit better. But what we're looking for in terms of that presenter capacity is really to make sure that you and the proposed artist are being set up for success with the staffing and the planning around organizational capacity that will be required to successfully support a touring presentation. So if you've done that in the past and your staff is set up for it, that's great. If you haven't done it so often, but you can and you have the partners in place, that's great too. We want to make sure that this funding is available for presenters if they look like a presenter that you may be familiar with doing a show, every weekend, or if they're primarily another type of organization, but the artist that they're working with is just a great fit for their community. So that, I hope that answers your question. Reach out to me if you have any follow-ups. Carolyn asks, how solid do the performance dates and community activity dates need to be? This is flexible as long as the project ends up taking place within the project period for the ArtsCONNECT cycle, which for this upcoming round is July 1, 2023 through June 30th or 2024. So in order for the project to be eligible for funding, it has to take place during that time period. If you're writing your LOA and you're like, sometime in spring 2023, like that, you know, that could be possible as long as it's, excuse me, not spring 2023, spring of 2024, as long as it's between the dates that I mentioned, you're okay. So if they're still a little iffy, it's okay if you don't have them exactly locked down at the time of application. Just again, know that eventually, if awarded, the project has to fall into that window. All right. Next, I work for a presenting organization, but have not applied for a program with partnering presenters like this before. For the projects and development part, is that how interested organizations connect with each other? Yeah, that's one way to do it. The point of the projects and development listing is to make sure that presenters who, as you say, may not have experience collaborating with one another for projects, have the opportunity to see what everybody's working with and potentially make new connections and, you know, build a presenting cohort together. So that is absolutely a great way to do it, especially if you are open to what artists you'd like to work with. You can check out the project and development listing, see what other people are interested in the region, and reach out to that presenter and see if they'd be willing to start a conversation with you. Of course, it's also essential that the artist that you're proposing is interested in working with you. So after you've reached out to the presenter, you'll need to have a conversation with the proposed artist to make sure that it's a good fit for all parties. You can also submit a project that you know that you're going to be working on within that July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2024 timeframe. You can submit that to the projects in development listing and see if any other presenters are interested. So those are all ways that you can collaborate. Another way you can do it is call up a presenter who you may know within working in another state or jurisdiction and talk to them about whether they would like to partner with you. Eventually, it will need to get onto the project and development listing, but you're absolutely welcome to work within your existing networks and leverage those networks to take advantage of ArtsCONNECT. A third thing you can do, although it is not incumbent on the artist to organize an ArtsCONNECT cohort, you can check in with the artist you're interested in and see if they're already planning to work with presenters in another state or jurisdiction in the region. If they are, that can be a great way for those two presenters, you and another presenter, to leverage this program to bolster the artist fee for that artist. I'm going to keep holding here until basically until 2. So if you have other questions, please put them in the Q&A. While I'm waiting, I'm going to go ahead and grab some of those links from the presentation and put them in the chat. So this is the projects and development submission form and the projects and development listing. This is the form that you'll use to submit your project to projects and development. And the second is how you check out what has already been submitted. And this is a link to more information on the Performing Arts Presenter Exchange. That series of programming starts this Thursday. It's Thursday, Friday, next Monday, and Tuesday. A week from today, on Tuesday, is when the ArtsCONNECT presenter pitch sessions are happening. If you have a project that you want to get, some energy around, that you want to see if any presenting partners are interested in working with you on, it's a great way to do that. It's super informal. It's going to be in a Zoom meeting, not even a webinar. We're just going to be in digital space together and talk about projects. So I encourage you to check it out if you're interested. All right, I think we may have wrapped. We don't have any more questions coming in. If you do have questions, I'll stay on for a few more minutes here, but if you want to go ahead and drop off, you're welcome to do that. My contact information is going in the chat. Again, please reach out anytime. I would love to talk with you. Oh, and we do have another question. Great. Oh, great. I will wait for you to put one in. We have someone asking, is the award administered by the lead organization? No, it is not. Each grant award is administered and awarded to each individual applicant after you are awarded. So while we do adjudicate as a cohort, once the award is made, it is between the individual presenter and MidAtlantic Arts. So if you're applying in a consortium with 3 presenters total and you're awarded, MidAtlantic Arts is making 3 separate grants, 1 to each space. And each presenter is required to keep up with all of the requirements of, shepherding that grant, which includes submitting the grant award agreement and also submitting a countersigned letter of agreement with the artist and submitting a final report. So, great. Thank you. Thanks for being here. I see, what upcoming MidAtlantic webinars or Zoom meetings do you recommend for artists to learn more about how to connect with a cohort of presenters? That's a great question. I think in general, we at this time don't have infrastructure as an organization to do community gathering, there are certainly excellent moments of gathering that are organized by some of our colleagues in the field. I mean, APAP is an example of that. We, as an organization, don't on our own organize gathering moments or pitch sessions in that way, other than for artists on the rosters that we put together. Like, for example, next week, the MidAtlantic Tours roster artists will be sharing more about their work. What I'd recommend, though, is that you take a look at our website and look through past grantees for programs like ArtsCONNECT, Special Presenter Initiative, MidAtlantic Tours. You can, on each program tab, look through who's been awarded funding. And I'm, certainly not able to guarantee that those presenters would be interested in starting a conversation with you, but you can be sure that if they've received a grant from us in the past, that they're familiar with our program and that they are, they have been successful in the past. And so it may be a good icebreaker to say, hey, I saw that you received an ArtsCONNECT grant in, this past fiscal year. I'd love to talk with you about, trying to, work on something like that in the future. The other thing I'd say is that if you're in touch with a presenter in one of the Mid-Atlantic states or jurisdictions, and they're interested in getting funding, but like really not sure how it works or not super comfortable navigating the website, give them my email and I'll set up a call with them and I'll work with them, talk with them about how to navigate the portal and make sure that they're super confident in applying. Because if you've already got that relationship, then you're totally encouraged to build on it and send them to us to help garner support for your engagement. All right, and I did see one person, Hayes, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You had put in the chat that you had a question, but I'm not sure if it made it in here yet. I'll hang out for a few more minutes until 2 o'clock, and if nothing else pops up, you are welcome to email me and we can connect outside of the webinar space for any other questions that you have. Okay, we are at 2 o'clock and I don't see any more questions in the Q&A, so we are going to go ahead and call it. I want to thank Laura so much for your ASL interpretation. I want to thank Sarah Tunay for your support of this program and this webinar moment. And I want to thank all of you for your time and your interest in ArtsCONNECT and Mid-Atlantic Arts. Don't hesitate to reach out. My info's in the chat, and I hope to see some of you at some of the events later this week virtually as well. Meanwhile, take care, stay safe, and thanks again. Goodbye.